Hello, this is a tutorial for AspCoreGen 2.0 MVC software. So let me go ahead and jump to the web page so I can show you what this thing does. So AspCoreGen 2.0 MVC generates an ASP.NET Core 2.0 MVC web app. So what it does is it will generate all these classes, the models, views, controllers, your view models, an optional web API project, the middle tier and data tier classes, and a choice of your SQL code that can either be an entity framework core classes or stored procedures that is directly generated in your MS SQL, Microsoft SQL database, and or Ad-Hoc SQL, which is SQL directly generated in a SQL in a C# class. So let me go ahead and open up the software. So for those of you guys who already use any of our software, this should only take you about a second to start using. Nothing really has changed. Everything remains the same. So it's still the same easy to use software. Excuse me. So for those of you guys who haven't used our software, it's really easy to use. So it opens up in the database settings tab. It's asking you for the database connection. So it's pretty much for any programmer that needs to connect to a database, you will need your connection string. Now AspCoreGen 2.0 MVC only connects to a Microsoft SQL database, and it will only generate code based off of your Microsoft SQL database. And let me go ahead and open one. Excuse me. So right now we're gonna try to generate code for the Northwind database and for these tables right here, from categories to territories here. Let me go ahead and close that. I'm going to enter in my database name for which I want to generate code for. You will need to enter in your admin username and password for the database. So I'm going to go ahead and enter in my password. And go ahead and check the show password checkbox. What it does, it will remember your password the next time you come back here. Now, for everything else is remembered as soon as you close the app and reopen it. And it's really easy to use. So as soon as you hover over the any of the question mark icons, it'll tell you what that specific field does. And as I was talking about earlier, you could generate code for SQL. There are three choices. You could either generate entity framework core, which are classes generated into your web app. You can generate stored procedures, which are stored procedures generated directly into your database, Microsoft SQL database. Or you could also choose an ad hoc SQL. These are SQL scripts that is generated into C# classes, which I'm going to show you later on. So for now, we'll just keep the entity framework core. Then on the code settings tab, you can tell it to generate code for all the tables. So pretty much we're telling it to generate code for categories, customer demo, products table, and territories. Pretty much all these tables listed here. Or just selected tables, which I'm gonna show. Maybe I'll show you that later on. For now, we'll enter in our web application name. So whatever name you want. So I'll just call this cool app. Enter in the directory where you want all the generated code to be in. So for now, I just want it to be in this folder right here, my Visual Studio 2017 projects folder. And I think that's about it. Now, as I was talking about earlier, the web API is optional. You can either generate it or not. So for now, we're just gonna keep that as is. On the UI settings, you could choose to generate views. All the views, there are 17 MVC views here, which I'm just gonna leave. You could also choose to have your themes. Now, in our website, there are examples of themes. I'm just gonna keep it at red band here because I kind of like the styling there. So if you go to the website and you go to the generated presentation layer, you'll see that right in the very bottom you have themes here. So for the Redmond, is that blue theme right there. So that's kind of what I want to generate, and we'll just keep it at that for now. And I think everything's good. We're just gonna go ahead and click the generate code for all tables, and it'll generate pretty quickly. So here it's telling you that it's been, all your models, views, controllers have been generated in that directory that you chose. So let's go ahead and minimize that, open up the directory, and there you go. Double click on the solution and it should open up in Visual Studio 2017. So for now, I'm gonna minimize this, or maybe I'll just maximize this to this. So here you'll see that it generated the code, and on my Solution Explorer you'll see that there are two projects. One is the Cool App, which is the web application, and then the Cool App API, which is the class library project that is used by Cool App. So here you'll see that a few things have been generated, but for now we'll just go ahead and run this. I'll show you the things that's been generated here in a few minutes. And I don't really need that. Okay, so the web application opens up in the home page, shows you the things that's been generated. Here it'll tell you that it generated two projects. So the black bars are the projects and the blue bars are the list of things that's been generated for each kind of object. So here it's telling you that on the web application it generated the views. These are the main objects and the controllers. And on the class library, second project on the web app, it generated all these business object classes, the middle tier, the data layer classes, your dial or your data tier, your view models, and then your entity framework. So as you click to the on the views, it'll expand. It'll tell you the things that it's generated. So these are the things that it generated. These are the views that was generated, which were all listed here. Let me go ahead and open this. These are all the things that we listed here on the views to generate. So it generated all that. Now these things are clickable for demo purposes here. So let me go ahead and click the products. So what this view does is it'll show you a list for this instance products, and then for this view, let's go ahead and move back to the website. I'll show you some of the things. This is that view right here on number 1. So if you want to see the features visually On this view, you will have the add new products link, the sort icon, so you can click the headers and sort them, ascending or descending, and you will have the page controls. You'll have the edit an existing item and delete the existing item, and you have the total number of records. So you can let's just go back here. So let me show you that. So here you could pretty much sort your items by product ID, quantity per unit, unit price, and so on. So here, let's say I can edit this. I'll go to the next page. That's why it's called redirect. I guess we didn't know what to call that better. So on the update page, it's got show you this for now. It's got validation, so it's telling you it's required. It'll pull the all the data from a foreign key field. So for now, it kind of understands the supplier IDs here. You can choose one. Again, it's got validation here, so it knows that this must be a decimal. So if you do this, that'll work. If you do this, that might not work. You have a range. It's telling you can only type in from this to that range. Let's go ahead and just be quick there. So on that, we go back to the list. Right now, I just showed you the list with add, edit, redirect, and delete views, and the update record. You could also add from that page. So you could also add, for this instance, a new product. Did I click it? And so on. Let's go back on the list. Let me just show you a few of these things. The list read-only. What it does is it's just read-only. You cannot really add or do anything, but it has a detailed view for any foreign key. So the supplier ID and category IDs, you click that and I'll show you the details for those. Now let me talk to you about the page controls. Most of these views have page controls. So right now it's telling us there's 18 pages if you do 10 records per page. So you have the next, you get the previews, you get the last, you get the first page, and you can also change the number of items per page, or go ahead and jump to that page, and you can pretty much do that in every list view that this thing generates. And let me go ahead and show you some more on the products page. This is the list view where you could add on the same page or edit the same product on the same page. And of course your delete, pretty much the same everywhere else. Excuse me. There's a confirmation before it deletes the product. So let's go ahead and try that. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this. Boom, it's deleted. The list with grouping. This is only generated for the ones that has foreign keys. For example, I have earlier you saw that products have supplier IDs. So here is showing you the supplier, exotic liquids. These are the products it supplies. New Orleans, products it supplies, and again there they can be sorted. There are also lists with totals. So these are for, I'm thinking it's for fields that has money values or decimals in it. These are decimals, so you'll see the totals in each page. Here you have a list with totals and grouping. So again, these are for foreign keys. So you'll see here, this is for the suppliers. For each supplier, there's a total of $47 for the unit price, and so on. You have a list with search. So the search controls are on top, and you just say, okay, find me a product. Well, product ID is always going to be just one. Find me anything that has an A and an I, or an A. Everything here is going to have an A and a G, A and an N. Supplier, that's just one. Discontinued, that's true or false. Anyway, you have a scroll, a list that loads by scrolling on the products. As you can see here, it's loading it from the database as you scroll to it. And again, these ones are clickable to go to the details. Oops. Now you have a list where you can add or update things inline. So I can just go ahead and update this inline. Call it AAAA. Boom, it's done. Or just add a new product. I'll call it BBBB. And of course, say A here, and it validates. Go ahead and check that, and that's updated. BBBB. You also have, for each of these lists that I showed you earlier, you'll notice that, let's go back to one list. It's using a JQ Grid plugin. This is a JQ Grid, and you can look more into it into our website. But there's also a list where there's a manual for each on each page, which I'm going to show you later on. But this is what it does. We are manually listing each one of these products on the page itself. So we're manually computing everything. You can go to the record details, same thing. You could update, you could delete, and we're not going to be deleting anything for now. There's also a list with a master and then detailed grid relationships. So let's go back to the products here. Let's go to the categories. So here I can just click beverages, condiments here, and you'll see this thing change as I click on top. Okay, there's also a list with a master detail, but there is a subgrid right below it. So I can just click the plus sign here, and you'll see the subgrid here. I can move from page to page. I can change the number of pages I want to see. So subgrid. And of course our Unbound Views. If you use our Express edition, the free edition, this is the only view that it'll generate. It'll do pretty much everything else, but this thing is not bound to the database. So you'll see that it doesn't have any data for the foreign keys. It'll still do the validation. It just won't save anything to your database. So it doesn't save anything. And that's about it. Again, it also generates controllers. Pretty much every class this software generates, it generates a base class controllers base class, and it'll generate a controllers class. What that does for us is it will, every time it generates, it always writes over the base classes, but it does not write over our main class or our parent class. What that does for us is we can write our code, our additional code in the parent class, and it will not override it. So one more thing here, let me show you the business objects that's generated. Is pretty much one business object per table. Again, there's a base class for each table, and then there's the parent class. So if you want to add your own code, you put it onto the parent classes. And again, you got your entity framework core here. Let me go ahead and close that and explain just a little bit. Oh, cancel. Let me just go ahead and close that. Go right back to the application here. So pretty much what you did see is it generated controllers here. You saw that. Let me go ahead and close this. You saw that it generated base classes for the controller. So for the products, you'll see it generated, pretty much it scaffolded everything from your ad, insert, update, to get all the views, to update the views. Pretty much is all the scaffolding is done for you. The delete, the record details, all that's pretty much done. And as I was saying earlier, that on your parent class, there's really no code here. So if you want to add new code here, this is where you're gonna be adding here. So you could say so you could pretty much do something here, and that's never going to be written over. So for each one of these, you have your controllers. You have your data layer. It's got a base class. You have your business object. You have base classes, and then your parent classes. You have your EF core. EF core doesn't have that, because everything's going to be written over every single time. Then you have your models and view models. Now, the reason that the models and view models are in the class library is because these are reusable classes. So you can reuse anything on this class in your other projects. So it doesn't matter what project it is. That's why it's out here in another class. Now, you also have code examples, where every table has an example. So here, let me go ahead and outline this. So here, it shows you how to select a product. So pretty much the way you would do this is from your controller. You pretty much do one line of code, select all records. Nobody will ever do that, of course. If you only have 4 records, then you'll do this. This is your business object. You always call the business object, which is here. I'm gonna go here. So business object is your products. You always call your products business object, and then call the method for it you wanna call. So here there's a lot of methods: get record count by ID, select all, and I'll tell you what these does right there. So it's almost always just gonna be one line of code when you're calling from your controller. There's an example on how to sort when you call all the methods, all the all the items for that table, but you don't really want to be doing that, and how to reverse sort. It also shows you how to do a for each loop on each one. So it'll tell you on the for each, do this, and you could also do the foreign keys So you can say that foreign key. So you can say here on the foreign key here, just write this down. You can see all the fields for that foreign key. You can see the city, company name here. So pretty much it generates all the code for you. You have code that selects the primary key right there. Again, it's one line of code. If you want to go through all the fields on that object, again, this is right there: product ID, product name, quantity per unit. So you pretty much don't have to do anything. Copy and paste. If you want to create your own code, here it shows you how to insert, instantiate a new product, which is this, the business object. So you always access the business object from anywhere. You access it from your web API, and it shows you how to assign the products. So of course these are just manual product values, but you can change it to whatever value you want. So that's what the examples does. I'll show you to just get a few records, okay, from the number of records you want to retrieve from the start of the index, which is, you could always say 0. But there's a lot of examples here, and I'm not gonna go through all that. I'm gonna go ahead and move to the website, and again, here you can see in the website, let's go on the end-tier approach. Here you'll see that on the generated code, it generates on the web app project. Here, open up that web app. On the web app, you will see that it generated controllers, which is here. And of course, it also generated all your CSS for it. It's using jQuery, like I showed you earlier. We chose Redmond. All your JavaScript is generated. Of course, some of the libraries that Visual Studio uses, like Bootstrap and jQuery validation code examples. So all these are generated onto your web app project, but the main thing here, or the main objects, are the controller. On the class library, you have your middle tier, just your business objects, and you have your data tier. For this one, we generated EF Core, or we could also have generated Ad-Hoc SQL, which looks onto your stored procedure and goes right back up. And so here, when you go to the middle layer, it shows you some of the sample codes on the website. I think I just showed you that earlier. And on here, on the middle tier, middle layer, I'll show you here, just like I showed you on the examples. When you access the middle layer, it's always almost just one line of code. So it's really simple. So let me go back to the website, and let's do another one here. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this, and go ahead, close that. Let's go do another one. Let's generate one with stored procedures, right? And we don't have to put any prefix, and I called it School App SP App. I don't know why I'm calling that. Let's change the port. I'm going to show you where the port is later on here, and let's use Web API this time. Now you could change the name of the applications, but I'm just gonna go ahead keep those. Again, this code generator generates a web application that has three projects: the web app itself, the class library project that has the business layer and data layer APIs, and then the web API project. So go ahead and click that. This only should take a little bit longer than the other one. This one is generating three projects instead of two. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close that, go back to my projects, and there you go. Open that in Visual Studio. So now you'll notice that there are three projects: our web application, our MVC web application, our class library web application, and then the web API. So let me go ahead and run this. It should run exactly the same as our cool app web application that was generating entity framework core code for SQL. It should just take a few seconds here. So as I showed you earlier, now there's three projects. In black here, you have your web application project, your business objects or your class library project, and then your web API project. And because we generated storage procedures, here it'll list all the stored procedures that was generated in SQL. So go ahead and click one of these. Maybe do this just to show you that it does the same thing. I wanted to show you this. So it pretty much does the same thing. Here again, I want to show you the generated theme here. So as you change your theme, you know, the theme on these things right here, like for the calendar, changes too. Let's go back to the home page. So it pretty much does the same thing, but what it did here was it generated a web API, then it generated storage procedures. Now if I go ahead, well, I'm gonna go ahead and close this and then go here. Oh, I totally forgot what I was gonna do. Okay, well, let's go back to the web application. Again, the only difference here is it generated a web API. Now I remembered what I was gonna do. I was gonna go here and show you the entire layer approach again. So here, as you look at on the second example here, you have your web project, the web API project. So the web application project, your MVC project, is accessing the web API. The web API now accesses your class library, your middle tier, and then it will access your data tier. So the data tier again can access either your EF core, your Ad-Hoc, or SQL scripts, which is directly generated in SQL Server here. So going back here, you'll see that in the controllers, let's say on the products, so here you'll see that it's actually accessing the web API. So it's calling the web API here rather than calling directly onto our business object. So from the controller, it accesses the web API. From the web API, it goes here. So if you go to the products here, let's say go to insert, let's do the delete instead. so it's easier. So from the web API, it's now accessing our business object, which is here. The name of our business object there is products, and then all the methods in that business object, which is again here. So when you go back here, the web app, the MVC app, is accessing our web API. The web API is accessing our class library project, and our class library project is accessing our data layer. So if you go to definition there, this is our data layer. Oh, hold on. So from the controller, let me just get up there. It goes to the web API, which is this, to our web API right here. From the web API, it goes to, go to definition here. It goes to our business object. MVC app, it goes to web API, calls the business object. Then from the business object, it calls the data tier or data layer class. So here, it's calling the data layer class. You can go to the definition there. It goes right there. And from the data layer, it's calling the database. From our data layer, it's calling our database stored procedure here. This is gonna go straight to the database, which is here. So let me go ahead and show you the stored procedures that was generated. Oh, let me go ahead and refresh that. So these are all the stored procedures that was generated here. Let me give you an example. So let's go to the products. So let's say we do this is the, oops, let's go ahead. I'm not supposed to double click that, so let's just go to the products. Modify, let's look at one. So these are all the code that generated just for that specific stored procedure. The stored procedure is what we use for, I don't know why we call that that. It's too hard to remember. But it is used for the search. So and you probably have at least 100 stored procedures generated here. Anyway, that's why it did generated a lot of those stored procedures here. And I think that's about it for this tutorial. Now you can visit our website and look at the things it does. And by the way, we have 2 editions for AspCoreGen 2.0 MVC. You will have the Express, and then you will have the Professional Plus. And the Express is totally free. Okay, I think that's about it. Maybe I'll post something else in the future. But for now, this is it. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.